Gravesend section of Brooklyn, where the big concern is unplowed streets. We know of as many as a dozen blocks that simply have not been plowed, have not been touched by city streets, and that has some here calling for these outer boroughs to be declared a state of emergency. Leading that charge is Assemblyman Bill Colton. Bill Colton, you represent this area. You've called for a state of emergency. Why, sir, have you called for that?
I believe an emergency exists. We have streets here that still, after 4 days, have not been plowed. The families on these streets pay their taxes. They're asked to pay city taxes. They're asked to pay state taxes. And they expect services, essential services, to prevent life-threatening conditions. We have over a dozen calls to my office in the last hour and a half of streets 4 days into the storm that have not been touched. That constitutes an emergency. We have Avenue P, West 8th Street between Avenue P and Avenue O, East 4th Street between Avenue O and Avenue P, Avenue U, Avenue W between McDonald Avenue and Ocean Parkway.
I can hear
numerous streets.
I can hear the anger in your voice. Who do you blame for this, or do you place any blame for this?
At this point, I don't think we should be placing blame. I think together we have to express our outrage to our elected officials and demand that something be done. And what needs to be done here is there needs to be a state of emergency declared before any further loss of life takes place. There are people with medical conditions that are not able to get to their medical care. There are people who ambulances cannot reach. There are blocks where the families are fearful a fire may take place and they will not be able to have fire vehicles come to save their homes and their families. It is an outrage. The outer boroughs are outraged. They're asked to pay taxes, and they expect the services that they need.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Assemblyman. You heard him there talking about some of those emergency personnel, emergency vehicles, some of those medical conditions where people simply couldn't get to certain places. One of the places that we know of is the dialysis center in Borough Park. That's in Brooklyn. We know there. We have some video earlier. 55 patients could not come in because of the snow. A nurse at the center says staff members were snowed in at the clinic. Usually they get about 76 patients, and only about 4 came in on Monday and Tuesday. It grew to about 30 today, but still, they're not sure when they're going to be able to get those streets fully clear. We talked to someone there. Here's what they had to say earlier.
What's clear here is the city's plan failed. We missed the opportunity to declare a state of emergency. We missed the opportunity to bring in the kind of equipment we needed. Plan A failed. There apparently was no Plan B. And now we're finding, hour by hour, more and more New Yorkers whose health may be in danger.
Now you can see we're trying to get a shot here. You can see the situation that's unfolding out here in Brooklyn, this traffic situation that's happening because of the snow that's on these streets. We're not sure if there was just an accident there, but certainly there is a traffic piled up on top of cars here. We've seen this all throughout the day here in this section of Gravesend in Brooklyn. Hopefully they're going to have this situation resolved soon, but for tonight, things are still in a very dire strait.
Get myfoxny.com on your iPhone free at the App Store and stay connected.